Our next presenter is Jason Crispin, the Chef Jason, to talk about marketing your hospitality business.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I did prepare a small PowerPoint, but there was obviously an error exporting from my Mac to a PC, so there's not going to be as many slides or poster points as Mr. Harris. First, I'd like to thank Tom, the members of the SCORE, Bob Goodyear, my counselor in the back, Stuart Tenner, for the opportunity to come and speak to you guys today about my business, some of the marketing tools I used, and a little bit about my story. I started Gourmand in March of 2012, and I held my first class almost 4 years ago in June of 2012. I am grateful that in that time, I've hosted over 300 classes, more than 2,000 students in over 50 different topics and 3 different formats. All but 6 of those classes, I was able to either break even or make a profit. And what I find unique about that is that at times, based on some of my marketing strategies, that was really difficult. It was really hard to break even using certain techniques and accepting certain discounts almost in order to get customers in the door. I started Gourmand because at the time I was teaching at night for another organization, another school, and I was pretty convinced that since I was making that program so successful that I could build a better mousetrap and make something that's my own, put money in my pocket as opposed to someone else's. Can you guys hear me out in the back? Okay, so I had reached out to Stuart, who we had worked on a project together in the past about my idea, and he helped put it on paper and move it forward. My first class, I started with just 8 different classes in 1 different format, and since then, like I said, I've grown to over 50 classes, 50 separate classes in 3 different formats. I have been lucky enough that over the last couple of years, I've started to branch out my business into some consulting, some food and beverage consulting, menu planning, as well as food service operation consulting for both the public and private sector. Now, when I talk about my strategies, what I'd like you guys to keep in mind is that I'm going to refer to the food service industry as restaurants. I'm not sure by a show of hands who is in the food service business. Okay, so I'm going to talk in general terms as restaurants, but a lot of the techniques translate very easily between what my business is and what your business is and your business out there. For me, I truly believe that the best industry to start a business in is the food service industry. And I came across a few interesting facts over the course of my research. Here's number 1. The food service industry, and that's restaurants and all different kinds of food services. In 2016, sales are expected to reach $783 billion. So you can imagine just getting a small piece of that revenue. 14.4 million is the amount of jobs that are in the restaurant and hospitality industry. It's the second largest private sector employer. And then the most interesting that I found was that there are over 1 million plus restaurants and food service businesses in the country. Now, I would flip to another slide if it worked, but the downside to such a fantastic opportunity is that, believe it or not, the profit margin in the food service industry is very low. It's somewhere between 3 and 8%. So as we get a little further into my presentation, I'm going to explain to you that it's so important that you keep your costs in line because you only get a very small percentage as profit after you're done paying your bills and expenses. And of course, the failure rate is incredibly high. 30% of all food service businesses fail in the first year. Of those that make it, another 30% fail in the year after that. So I'm very, very fortunate to be one of 30 or so schools in the state, 50 or so if you take into New York City, Staten Island, and Pennsylvania, that I'm still around 4 years later. One of the things I tried to come across when I talk about my business in helping startups turn a profit, the first thing I tell you guys is that food service businesses have absolutely nothing to do with food. And what I mean by that is that chefs, home cooks, whether you make bottled sauces or soups, we're under the belief that we make the absolute best product. My meatballs are the best out of everybody's. One thing you have to keep in mind is that your food is not that great. You're not that special. Food service is about service and has nothing to do with food. Okay. So now I put together a series of marketing tools and techniques. Number one, everybody loves free food. When I first started out, I had no idea how to get my name out in the community. So I ended up pairing with the Wine Academy in Lakewood. I had sent out an email to the owner, who at the time was hosting classes on wine education on Wednesdays. I reached out and asked if it would be okay if I hosted some tasting events in order to press the flesh, so to speak, and get my name out in the community. At the time, I was working with Stuart on how to put my idea in motion. And he had given me an article about how to actually start a food service business. On the article, it talked about using a cheese shop or a wine shop in order to market my business. So I was able to go out. I met with the owner of the Wine Academy maybe 3 or 4 days after I had sent the email. The following week, I had set up a series of recipes, series of handouts, and some food, and we would go each week alternating to the different locations, giving out free food, recipes, talking to customers, and trying to generate a buzz for the business. I was fortunate enough that I got my very first phone call about information and to register for a class before I even got home from the first tasting. So one of the suggestions I have for you guys is that you should use food tastings, food truck events, festivals as an opportunity to go out, press the flesh, talk to future customers, and allow them to taste your food. In most cases, a lot of those events are absolutely free. The event organizers give out the tables for free as long as you come and bring enough food. So it's one of those really quick, cheap ideas on how to get your name out and meet different customers. Number two, and I have Tom to thank for this, it's really important that you spend the money to develop a good quality website. When I told you that I had signed up a student for my first class before I even got home, I wasn't joking. At the time, I didn't even have a website. I had no way for students to register, so I immediately went home and I developed a website on Wix, Wix.com. Has anybody ever used Wix? No? No? The thing about Wix is that it gives you the opportunity for free to use set templates to kind of drag and drop different pictures and logos onto a simple website. Like I said, there's absolutely no costs. The hosting is very, very cheap. But there's limitations to that website. So what I did is I had met with Tom about developing a really good website. I actually would have a slide if you... As you can see, isn't that a dynamite website? Which would allow me to to have free registration, register online. I've used it since to integrate my social media feeds, some recipes, give away free videos. Hopefully in the next couple weeks, I've been working with Tom. We met last week to put together a free downloadable cookbook. To leave, a really good option was to be able to leave me no, not an email, voicemail. A voicemail. A voicemail that would allow customers to kind of click a button, talk into your microphone or your telephone, and leave me a message if you have a question, what happens when I oversalt, what happens if something burns. And we hope that maybe it turns into one of those things like the Butterball hotline for Thanksgiving. Number 3. This one might be a touch controversial for the professional marketers in the room. I was able to use subscription sites and deal sites in order to reach a large amount of people. Groupon, Living Social, Deal Chicken. I have a few of them down. Living Social, Groupon, Deal Chicken. The thing about those websites is that it costs absolutely nothing for you to reach a large quantity of people. When I worked with Groupon, Groupon would send out my email to 125,000 people all across the state. On a shoestring budget. Now, when I mean I started Gourmand on a shoestring budget, when I was writing my business plan, which Stuart, I haven't finished yet. My marketing budget was absolutely less than zero. So besides spending money to give away free food, working in these different types of food tasting events, the only option I had to reach a large amount of people was to turn to these deal websites. The benefit, like I said, to the deal websites is that it doesn't cost you anything upfront to market to 100,000 or so people. The downside is that you have to take the cost of your good, whatever you're trying to sell it for, it's a 50% discount, and then you split that remaining 50% with the deal site, another 50%. So for instance, I started, my first set of classes was $45 per person. After the discount, the Groupon discount, it was $22.50. When we were done, I got $11.25 per student. So when I mean to tell you that I was lucky enough to turn a profit, that for a few years, I was turning over all of these students, 12, 13 classes a month, and in some cases, really struggling to turn a profit. So what I did was I used those as often as I could in order to expose myself to a large amount of people. Luckily, I was able to retain a lot of those customers. I worked with a student last night who was in my second class, and I got her through Deal Chicken, and I was lucky enough that she has taken absolutely every single class that I've offered. What I encourage you to do, regardless of your business, now I can only speak from a food service standpoint, is that, like I said, you have to absolutely make sure that your food costs are 100% in line. You cannot afford, when you're working on such a narrow margin, like I said, the normal average margin is about 3 to 8%. I'm somewhere higher, between 10 and 12%, because I keep my food costs so low. But if you do not have your costs in line, it's a guaranteed loss. And it can be a loss both in the short term and long term. The second benefit to using those websites is that it gives you the opportunity to bring customers in and upsell very quickly. So for me, to sell them knives, to sell them pots and pans, to sell them additional recipes, it was a benefit. But if you do not have a way to sell additional product, discount shoppers aren't necessarily long-term buyers. So what I recommend is that let your product, let your service, let your personality, if your business is personality driven, let that be the opportunity to really shine, because you may not see that person ever again. Groupon and Living Social, I was about a 30 to 35% retention rate. And when I tell you I sold about 350 Groupons, I sold about 225 Living Socials, and Deal Chicken, who was the first to accept me, actually Groupon and Living Social denied me. Deal Chicken accepted me. I sold 50, 60 individual seats, and I guarantee that if you were to use those sites, as soon as one accepts you, the phone rings and it's another Deal website to give you the same opportunity. So once they see that you can start to sell, you get accepted pretty quick. Next slide. What I recommend is that you list yourself on sites like Yelp, Foursquare, and OpenTable. Now, for you guys that aren't necessarily in the same business, there's always some kind of comparable website or app that customers go and look for new opportunities. I always found that as a person who eats out often, because believe it or not, I'm not that good of a cook. My food is not that good. I actually prefer to eat out. Because of my taste in food, it's less expensive to go out. I get the benefit of not smelling like food, and I don't have to clean up my own dishes, which is an uphill battle. What's interesting about OpenTable is that OpenTable allows you to take in, and what's interesting about the iPhone is that it can target where you are specifically and show you opportunities that you have. It was interesting, on Saturday night we were in Philadelphia. We were in Philadelphia for a iced tea festival. Believe it or not, they have those. And we had no idea where to eat in Philadelphia. Now, in New York City, I can tell you 1,000 restaurants to eat at all price points. But in Philadelphia, I had no idea where to go. So we used OpenTable. We used OpenTable for two reasons. I like the option to pick different types of cuisine, and I spoke to Mr. Harris before about my girlfriend's unique palate. She's got the palate of a 5-year-old. So we eat we eat in places that serve turkey burgers. And I'm a definite meat and potatoes steak kind of guy. So not knowing where we were, we logged on to OpenTable and we found a place called City Tavern. Now, for any of you guys that know City Tavern, it is a restaurant that took an old colonial home, they refurbished it, and they run a restaurant out of it. And what's unique about it is that the servers dress in the dress like the 1700s. And you're right down the street from Independence Hall. So it's real historic, it's real colonial, it's a nice experience. But I would have forgotten that City Tavern was in Philadelphia if I hadn't looked it up. So it was one of those opportunities where I was reminded, and then we went, and we had a decent time. The other thing about those type of websites is that your customers get an additional benefit of points. Kara, who is my girlfriend, she loves subscribing to everything that gives her points, and we never collect enough points to reap the reward, but she likes the idea that we get all these additional points. Second, Yelp, Foursquare. And for you that aren't in the food service industry, you want to give your customers the opportunity to tell you and the world what they think of your product. What's unique since the age of the internet is that most people believe that we care about your feelings, we care about your opinion, but what it does do is it gives us the opportunity as a business owner and a food service professional that if I put out a poor product, I expect a bad review. So it keeps me as a business owner, it keeps me as a chef, and it keeps me as a professional on my game. I don't let a dish go out that's going to be bad, that's going to taste bad, that's overcooked. Where if you were less proactive about those bad reviews, you might let those go out. And I can't tell you how many times I've not gone back to a restaurant or a food service business because my first impression of them was either bad service or poor product. I touched on my fifth slide, which is pressing the flesh. You can't beat going out and making a business-to-business contact. I've been fortunate to work with a woman who's starting up a pie business. That's it? 2 minutes? Thank you, I appreciate it. She's in the pie business, and she makes pies and cookies and these chocolate lollipop things. She had met with the fresh food manager at Whole Foods, and she loved the product that my client was selling. It was organic, it was free range, it was all that stuff that are big buzzwords. But my client spent so much time worrying about how to land that big fish that opportunities were passing her by to sell her pies and sell her cakes. So we met at Wegmans, and I told her, I don't necessarily understand why you're looking for big fish when you don't have a kitchen, you don't have a business license, you don't have any certification, you've never owned a business. Why you're looking to get involved in Whole Foods and Costco and Target and all those different types of stores. I said, leave here, go across the street to the pizzeria. Come in with your portfolio and your pictures. Say, hi, I make pies. I would like to come in, show you that my pies are delicious, taste my pies, to show you how I can help make you money. I've done that both in a corporate setting as well as a private setting, just going out and meeting, shaking hands with potential customers, and it's gone and expanded my business dramatically. So there's something to be said for the old-fashioned, hi, I'd like your business. 2 more. Because we're a food service business, service is service. Whether you're a clothing store, whether you're an appliance company, whether you're a cooking school, the best marketing tool I can tell you to use is to give your customers the absolute best service that you can possibly give. I can't tell you. Now, when I tell you my food is average, my recipes, there is nothing unique about the product I offer. I've been so successful because customers come to me all the time and say, you know, you really have the ability to explain something that sounds so complex to be so simple. They say it's my personality, it's my unique way of delivering information that has brought people back countless times. And like I said, I've had customers that come once a month, twice a month for the last 4 years because of the consistent service. When a guest comes in, you serve the right food, you clean up the table the right way, and you offer a unique product. Last one. One thing I do recommend is that regardless of the business, that you give your customers something that they can hold on to. What's unique about all of our businesses is, yes, we provide a service, but when my when my washer and dryer break down, the only thing I get is a repaired washer and dryer. What I have tried to do is make sure that every guest that leaves my class, number one, has a packet of recipes that has my contact information. They get to take it home. They all claim that they're going to try it at home, but they rarely do. And then the second thing is that they take home food. They have to take home something that'll sit in the refrigerator for a day or two. Last night's class, somebody will open up the refrigerator tomorrow and say, wow, I remember that class, I remember that event, I remember that restaurant, I remember that service. One of my favorite restaurants, and it's a kind of a guilty pleasure, is a chain of restaurants called Maggiano's Little Italy. And they offer a specific menu. And they're moderately priced dishes, anywhere between $15 and $20. You order a dish off this menu, you get that one, and you get to pick one to take home for the same price. And it's one of those things that you feel like you're getting something extra out of the product or service. The last thing I have for you, and I promise this is the last thing, and it's a really funny slide. It's been a benefit to me to partner with other businesses. I host my classes at a small gourmet food store in Point Pleasant called Miletto Gourmet. It gives me the opportunity to use a kitchen that's not being used. It gives the owner of the business the opportunity to generate revenue for a kitchen that's not being used. I had a similar opportunity with Bacchus Wine School. We hosted classes on the off times that the wine room isn't making any money. It's just aging wine. So go out and reach different business owners that have similar opportunities and see if you can benefit from a mutual relationship. Last but not least, since we only have one food service business, the witty part of the slide is it says to host a cooking class, because I happen to know a really good cooking teacher. But unless you own an appliance store or a wine shop, I don't see how we're going to be able to do business together. But thank you very much.